No, look, I think the ethics complaint that you've lodged is really well done, very detailed, and full of verbatim quotes from them, showing how Kevin Morris and his two compatriots misrepresented themselves, and then you've identified the exact clauses, the rules of the Bar Association of California that appear to be have been breached.
Hello, my name is Anne McElhenney.
And I'm Phelim McAleer.
Welcome to the Anne and Phelim Scoop. It's October now. Just wanted to mention that, Phelim. I think it's good to keep a track of time passing. So what do we do at the weekend, Phelim?
Oh, what a fun-filled and packed weekend we had. On Saturday night we went to Torrance.
We did.
The much maligned Torrance. If you ever live in LA, everyone has very bad things to say about Torrance.
We didn't notice anything to be
Well,
coming from Venice, by the way. Yeah, I don't think we want to criticize anywhere other than
Yes.
So Torrance looked clean and nice to us.
Yes, so we went to Torrance. We went to the American Freedom Alliance dinner, where the guest speaker was one Mr. Steve Bannon.
One Mr. Steve Bannon,
Former editor-in-chief of Breitbart,
yes,
and then former counsellor to the president. He ran the presidential campaign, counsellor to the president, and now he runs the war room, and now he's also going to go to prison for being in contempt of court of Congress, and they're now prosecuting him for allegedly everything. Yes, basically everything, whatever they can get him for.
And it was interesting actually over the weekend just looking at the reaction from the Twitterverse to the fact that he was being allowed to speak at this hotel in Torrance, and I mean just extraordinary amount of abuse basically that the manager of the hotel must have had to put up with. And I thought the manager of the hotel was great actually. His response on Twitter was basically we're open to whoever wants to come and stay here and use the facilities and speak, but I'm sure it was a very uncomfortable thing for him actually.
Yeah.
But his speech was interesting, right?
Steve's speech, yeah, he given a speech earlier in the day, and then he said, I've given a speech, why don't I just do a Q&A? And the Q&A was very interesting. It was one of those Q&As I wish I'd recorded because it was packed full. It wasn't the usual shining city on a hill, freedom's only one generation away from what,
all of those Reagan quotes that get overly
that we heard
used.
a lot of earlier in the weekend.
Yes, which we'll talk about that too.
Yeah. His basic, there are many things he said, but he said, America's basically screwed, 35 trillion in debt based on nothing, based on the Federal Reserve saying, yeah, we're good for it. And it's like,
the biggest takeout I got from the piece that he said, I mean, he said a lot of things. It was incredibly depressing. But the most depressing thing I think was that he said, if you're 35 or under, the future is just extremely bleak. You'll never own a house, and he basically said there was really no good news for anyone.
Yeah,
under
you're going to be a
35.
serf. You're going to be like a Russian serf.
You'll be a Russian serf.
You're going to have no ability to get on the property ladder at all if you're 35 and under. And we see that, by the way, here in LA, people under 35. There is just no feasible way if they're in and I was going to say average, but an average LA job, like an average LA job now, I don't know what it is. Is it 70,000, 80,000?
Well, there's a lot of people though who are earning like gazillions of dollars. By the way, a lot of people in tech or who are in a different sector. But yeah, regular folk basically.
Regular,
and that's a lot of people, by the way.
But I'm not even regular folk. I'm not even talking nurses. I'm talking people in social media and this, they're on 70, 80,000, and it's impossible for them. Like I think the average house in LA now is 700,000 or 800,000. That's the average. It's heading up towards 1 million. If you're 25, so let's say the 700,000, 10% down, that's 70,000. When you're paying rent, like the studio apartments
crazy.
down by the beach when we first came here were being rented for 1,200, 1,300, and then they went up to 1,600, and people were going. Now they're 2,500
for a studio apartment that you would basically kill yourself in. But we also this weekend went to hear the prize winning of the National Review, the Buckley dinner, basically, which was hosted in the Reagan Library, which, by the way, is really beyond beyonds in terms of spectacular. To be inside a building eating dinner beside Air Force One is pretty pretty spectacular. And I have to say the standout speaker of the night was the prize winner, which was Larry Kudlow, who I didn't know he was a former alcoholic.
And cocaine addict.
And cocaine addict. Oh, I didn't know, but I didn't miss the cocaine. But basically, he was a really, really lovely human being, by the way. And interestingly enough, one of the people who introduced him was also somebody who had had an addiction issue and was really just basically said that Larry Kudlow is a gorgeous human being. And I thought that was a really lovely thing. Besides any other kind of accolade that he was being recognised as such a gorgeous person. So I thought that was very nice.
My takeaways from the National Review dinner at the Reagan Library, the Buckley dinner, Trump got very few mentions.
Very
In fact,
few.
He got almost no mentions until Larry Kudlow gave his speech.
Yes.
And Larry Kudlow said, Reagan got name checked every 5 minutes,
Yes.
almost to the point of, not another Reagan quote.
Yes.
I suppose we were in the Reagan Library, but I think they like name checking Reagan.
Yes,
And
like kind of now, in fairness, in the building that we were in, it feels sort of appropriate.
Yeah,
but he made this point, I think that you're going to refer to, which is basically where he said Buckley, Reagan, Trump. He said there's a direct line.
Direct connection.
A direct connection. So
and he's right.
Yes.
And he's right.
Yes.
And I don't know if they wanted to hear it there at the National
yeah, I'm
Review.
not sure they wanted to hear that at the National Review. I'm not sure that there was a standing ovation at that particular remark or anything.
Well,
but yes,
I think we might have led one, I don't know. But
we started clapping.
yeah, it's an interesting magazine, the National Review. Kitty Pavlik was there, lovely
Yeah,
Kitty.
we saw Katie. There's a little photograph of me with Katie. Yes. And then it was our wedding anniversary then on Friday. So we were 21 years married, and there's a photograph of us 21 years ago looking so very delightful. And rather, you see the way my hair has changed colour? That's global warming for you. That's what that is. There's no other explanation that I can come up with that makes any sense.
Totally.
But very nicely, by the way, we stayed the night of the National Review because of whatever, it was out in wherever, Westlake Village, out there, somewhere out there.
There be
we
dragons.
stayed in the Four Seasons. And here's my takeaway of staying in the Four Seasons. You know the way you stay in nice hotels and you think, isn't that a lovely hotel? Then you stay in somewhere like the Four Seasons and you basically say to yourself, wow, no, that's what a really nice hotel is like. So it was stratospherically different. But then I looked up afterwards what the price of staying in that hotel
We got a
would be.
deal.
We got a very good deal because we were at the National Review. But apparently if you were staying there as a normal human being, it is extraordinarily expensive. But anyway, really,
prohibitively
really nice.
expensive.
We were very much happy to stay there.
Yeah.
Very, very happy to stay there.
So on today's show, what's
On
on
today's show,
show?
well, as you said, Phelim, Phelim earlier interviewed the great Miranda Devine,
Yes.
the New York Post journalist who, of course, wrote that extraordinary book, The Laptop from Hell, which, Phelim, you were saying that over the week, which has actually joined the lexicon now. People are always talking about the laptop from
Yeah,
hell.
they've started saying My Son Hunter, because you see it now on Twitter. People go, what about your, My Son Hunter, My Son Hunter. You see it trends a lot now because it's our movie, My Son Hunter. You can still watch, mysonhunter.com. Please do that. And please tweet about it. We need it to trend again. We just need to.
Well, I think we can mention some interesting information actually about mysonhunter.com about going there. You can also either within the next few days, if not by the time this comes out, you'll be able to buy DVDs. Many of you have asked about DVDs, so we're answering your call and we are producing a limited edition, a limited run of DVDs. So get involved, and it should be on the My Son Hunter page how to buy.
Keep an eye on the website.
And keep an eye on the website.
Yeah, mysonhunter.com. So, yes, we'll be interviewing Miranda about all things Hunter Biden and his undercover lawyer, his unethical undercover lawyer. We'll be bringing you some news about my ethics complaint.
Yes.
And what? This was a mystery to me. It was one of those mysteries that I didn't really...
a mystery now.
A mystery. I was sort of thinking, that's strange. But then I never gave it any thought. There's this movie out about Marilyn Monroe called Blonde, and the critics hated it. Like, the previews were...
really over the top.
I remember thinking they hate it as much as they hate My Son Hunter, right? And they didn't hate My Son Hunter; they hated the politics of My Son Hunter. But I was thinking, why do they hate Marilyn Monroe so much? Then I thought, I want a cup of tea, and never thought about it again. One of those stories. Then I found out why they hate the new Marilyn Monroe
and we're going to tell you all about that.
And we're going to tell you all about this.
Brought to you by the New York Times. Very, very good. And then the other question then we have for you is, are you happy being a homophobic weirdo? Because you check this, you might actually be, and we will discuss.
I don't know
how that is.
I think it's either my life goal or
to be a homophobic weirdo.
Yeah,
All right. Well, you'll understand the
I want it
context.
to be a turf before even you were a turf. I just
Look
like the
at you,
phrase.
Phil.
I like the
Ah, that's
phrase
so sweet, Phil.
turf.
Yeah.
I like trans exclusionary radical feminist. I like that's a great phrase, isn't
That
it?
is very good. Actually, it sounds like a name for a band or an
Who
album.
wouldn't
You
want to be
know,
a trans exclusionary radical feminist? It's just got so much going
it's got
on.
everything going on there.
Yeah.
Okay, but first of all, we're going to go over to the interview Phelim did earlier with Miranda Devine. So let's go over to that great interview right now.
So, welcome back to the show, Miranda Devine. Miranda is a long-time friend of the show. She's an international journalist, a genuine international journalist. At the moment, she's a columnist and journalist for the New York Post, and you may have seen her on Fox News. She also, I think, you still have a column in Australia as well. You'll fill me in on that as well. And I suppose the reason, of course, she is the author of The Laptop from Hell, the book about Hunter Biden that exposed his dodgy dealings and, of course, the Biden clan's dodgy dealings to the world. So welcome, Miranda. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Phelim and Anne. Great to be with you.
Tell us, Miranda, what's the latest? I mean, your book, Laptop from Hell, we were just discussing it before we came on air there. I mean, it's still in hardback. There's still an enormous amount of interest in Hunter Biden. And I think the movie My Son Hunter has certainly helped keep that interest going. Tell us about your book, how it's going, and are you still getting lots of positive feedback on it?
Yeah, thanks, Phelim. It's true. I mean, I think this is a story that just keeps on going. It's evolved, since we at the New York Post first started publishing extracts from The Laptop back in October of 2020, right through to today. It's new stories every day. And it's not just from The Laptop, it's basically from revelations from other Hunter Biden associates and business partners. It's the fact that, the New York Times and the Washington Post finally, 19 months after the Post broke the story, decided it was a story that gave it a whole new lease of life. There's so much information. We've now found out, I think the cover-up of the story of our New York Post story back in 2020 is now as big, if not bigger, a story than the story of corruption that it was all about. It's really, we're now seeing from whistleblowers that have come forward from the FBI, a scandal of epic proportions, that it was the FBI in collusion with big tech, and in collusion, potentially big tech, with members of the Biden administration and the Democratic Party. And the more, every day that goes by, there are more and more revelations, more and more whistleblowers, and it's quite sinister what we're seeing about, I guess, the security state of the United States.
Yeah. This is it. It's. I think you really called it that. It's the security deep state. Whether it's retired intelligence officials who signed a letter saying it had all the hallmarks of Russian disinformation, or whether was actually working FBI agents who had the laptop but chose not to investigate, and probably briefed people that this was nothing to see here. Demoted agents, sidelined agents who wanted to investigate. Um, so that story is going to run and run. I suppose I want to start with the most recent news. Tell me, from what you're investigating, what's the latest with Hunter Biden and his world? Um, is he going to face justice? Do you think? Have your sources told you there's going to be any charges? This is the Biden Department of Justice and the FBI investigating him, and state police as well as a grand jury. So what do you think is going to come out of that? What's your sources telling you?
I don't think anything will happen before the midterms now. If there was some expectation a couple of months back that Hunter Biden had entered into a plea deal with the US attorney in Delaware that's been investigating him for the past 4 years on various allegations ranging from money laundering to tax evasion. We understand he's paid back about $2.8 million in unpaid taxes, care of his new sugar brother, LA attorney, entertainment lawyer, who I think Kevin Morris.
I know him very well.
Yeah.
Spent spent a weekend in Serbia, well, the last weekend in Serbia with Kevin Morris.
Lucky
We'll
you.
come to that. We'll come to that in a moment. But yeah, so tell us. So yeah, so Kevin Morris, his lawyer, who's a remarkably generous man.
Lent him the money for the 2.8 million back taxes, and plus was at one point paying $20,000 a month rent on his Malibu spread. So that's a curious little sidebar to the story.
Yeah.
But regardless, we know that last summer we had some of Hunter Biden's former lovers and former business partners appeared before a grand jury in Delaware looking into these allegations. And we know that at least one was asked, who is the big guy? But curiously, they never asked Tony Bobulinski to come in and tell them who the big guy is, because Tony Bobulinski, being Hunter Biden's former business partner in the big Chinese deals, knew exactly who the big guy was. It was Joe Biden. And
Wow.
he knew, because that's the way that Hunter and his business partners described Joe Biden in their sort of encrypted messages and their private conversations. And it's also the big guys mentioned quite a lot throughout the laptop. So obviously the grand jury, the US attorney David Weiss in Delaware, wasn't all that interested in finding out the identity of the big guy and pulling the threads that would lead straight to the White House and Joe Biden, because that's what happens if you follow the money. So I don't know whether this is going to be a whitewash or not, but I would think that if you don't call the star witness, it looks pretty much like a whitewash.
Yeah, I mean, come on, 4 years. I mean, it's all there in his emails. Um, I mean, what about the gun? I mean, there's so much. There's 10% for the big guy. There's the tax evasion. I mean, there's no way this guy's life was organized that he even filed tax returns. I would doubt it. I don't think he knew how much. There was so much money coming in and he was so, by his own admission, so drug addicted. I don't think he knows where the money came from. Well, he knew where it came from, but I don't think he was keeping note of it. It was that was the tax evasion. Then the firearm, where he said on his firearm application he's never taken hard drugs. Well, by his own admission, he was awash with hard drugs. He said he had to leave board meetings up Burisma every 20 minutes to take a crack hit. Then we've got Farah, that old chestnut Farah, which wasn't an offense until they needed something to prosecute Trump associates with. I mean, everyone in DC didn't follow FARA rules. FARA is where you have to, if you're working for a foreign government or an entity owned by a foreign government or with an interest of a foreign government, you have to register as a foreign agent and publish the details of all your contracts. He didn't do that, even though he was working for state-owned, Chinese state-owned companies and even Ukrainian and Russian state-owned companies. He didn't register as a FARA agent. So anything on that, or is that? I mean, why would it take 4 years to bring charges on something that he admits in his own emails?
Well, it shouldn't. I mean, there are excuses like, the pandemic intervened, like they had to pause before the 2020 election. Now, I guess they've had to pause before the midterms. But, it doesn't matter how you look at it. It's inexcusable unless they are actually putting together a case against Joe Biden, which it looks very unlikely. I can't imagine what took 4 years. It's ridiculous. And it's just what it managed to do, though, by having this long-running investigation was kind of divert any other material that came to light, like the laptop, like Tony Bobulinski. It managed to kind of divert it into that black hole, and they had this plausible deniability that, we're investigating Hunter Biden, and therefore no one's allowed to ask any questions, no one's allowed to know anything about it. It's all about an ongoing investigation. Be quiet. And, how long can they keep this stringing along? Possibly they'll keep stringing it along until the end of Joe Biden's term in office, whenever that is, by which stage he'll just pardon everyone.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's kind of ridiculous. It's just to me, and I don't have the knowledge of it that you do, but I've read his own book, and as Kevin Morris knows, a lot of his own book is in in the movie, and I mean, he admits several felonies, right? And what's with this allowing him to repay his tax, the tax he evaded, but not charging him? I mean, if he has repaid 2.8 million, again, that's a quasi admission of guilt. It should be the simplest case on the planet to prosecute. I mean, he should at least be facing charges. He's not at the moment, and I think that says a lot.
I think it's instructive to look at the New York Times article that kind of broke their silence 19 months after we first broke the story. And that was really an excuse. It wasn't about admitting that the laptop was real or that the emails that we published were authentic, although they did do that 23 paragraphs down. Really, what the story's intent was to rehearse Hunter Biden's kind of defenses on this case and I guess, shape the narrative for what's to come. And in that, the main excuse that poor Hunter has is that he was, a raging crack addict at the time, and woe is him, and how could he possibly be expected to keep track of his taxes? And aren't we all like that? So I think you'll see a lot of that, and there's a lot of sympathy in America for drug addiction because sadly, this country has become a country of addicts.
Okay, let's accept that narrative, right? That he is deserving of sympathy, and his criminal culpability is limited because of his addiction. Not limited, but it shouldn't be condemned as roundly. But then, why are someone like Burisma handing him $83,000 a month? Why is he a partner in a 1.2 billion Chinese investment fund? Why is the mayor of Moscow's wife, ex-mayor of Moscow's wife, sending him $3 million? Why is he? Who is the big guy? If it's the mea culpa stage, if you're throwing yourself on the mercy, and this is something that Hunter Biden, I've noticed is a pattern with him. Oh, woe is me! I'm confessing everything now. To me, his book, his memoir, was because I know the story not as detailed as you. I know it, on a less detailed level. I could spot the lies in his confessional memoir. I mean, it's the first time there's been a confessional memoir that's full of lies. And if you're going to throw yourself on the mercy of the public opinion, on the mercy of I was an addict, but I'm better now, you have to come clean, literally and metaphorically. You have to tell what you did, why you were getting that money, and what money you got, and what they got in return. None of that is spelled out. It's a plea for mercy without going the full way.
And look, I think that book, just like the New Yorker articles were as well, those confessionals, they were a very calculated, limited hangout, so to speak, where Hunter deliberately put out information to kind of neutralize the damaging material he knew was to come. But he can't come completely clean because that would shock his father. Wouldn't be allowed to do that. But also he misdirected. So there were dates and certain details that he added to the New Yorker piece, for instance, when he got the diamond from Chairman Yee from CEFC. Just deliberate lies to throw people off the scent. And I know this because I went down a lot of rabbit holes and a lot of wrong paths that he had steered me down deliberately because he was trying to get people off the scent of what the really damaging material was. And when you start to realize that, it's actually then quite useful because when you see a lie, you go, aha, what is he trying to hide here? What really damaging information is he trying to lead you away from? And that gets you to some golden moments.
Yeah. Talking of golden moments, let's talk about the latest story that I am actually a part of. You did the story on it there. I have taken an ethics complaint to the California Bar Association against Hunter Biden's lawyer, Kevin Morris, who infiltrated the set of our movie, My Son Hunter, said he and his associates were making a documentary. You wrote about that complaint. I want to give people some background. We filmed the My Son Hunter movie. in Serbia, which you can still buy at mysonhunter.com. It's being distributed by Breitbart. It's probably one of the most talked about movies. I think the Daily Beast described it as the most talked about movie after Don't Worry, Darling. So it's definitely in the zeitgeist. And we were making the movie, and Kevin Morris, who is the lawyer for the South Park guys, and really their third wheel, the third South Park guy. He's been with them for 25, 30 years. He arrived in Belgrade with a documentary film crew, quotation marks, making a documentary, wanted access to the set, wanted to question the actors, wanted to question the director, wanted to question me. And given that they had the South Park connection, he also implied that this was actually, he said it was under the South Park banner. It was going to be part of their new South Park streaming option that they'd just done this big deal with Paramount, and they'd content to do that. They needed to create content to satisfy that deal. We allowed them full access for several days. They recorded dozens of hours. I think I give 4 hours of interviews, but actually I think on reflection now, it's possibly more. And he was very, very interested in in where our sources were, who we got the laptop from, hard drives, where it came from, the pathway, all that. And of course, it has now emerged that this guy, Kevin Morris, was Hunter Biden's lawyer, that this was a fact finding, this was an evidence finding mission to the set of My Son Hunter. I've taken the ethics complaint now that you're not allowed to misrepresent yourself. If you're representing a client, you're not allowed to go to a third party and tell them you're not representing them and ask questions. It's quite obviously a bad thing for a lawyer to do. So I'm taking the ethics complaint. You wrote the story about it, and I believe you got a quote from the Morris camp from a friend close to Kevin Morris, and he's not taking it lightly, is he?
No, look, I think the ethics complaint that you've lodged is really well done, very detailed, and full of verbatim quotes from them, showing how Kevin Morris and his two compatriots misrepresented themselves, and then you've identified the exact clauses, the rules of the Bar Association of California that appear to be have been breached, and so I think it's a quite an open and shut case, depending on how they view it. But Kevin Morris's camp, as you say, were quite vituperative and rude about you and about the movie. But the thing I kind of don't understand is that they took several hours of footage, you say, and so I don't know what they're going to do with it, because if their aim was to try and embarrass you or something, show you up, all they will do is whet the appetite for viewers to go and see the movie, because the lavish scenes, the amazing kind of costumes and the actors and the background, and the very accurate recreations of some of Hunter Biden's most kind of bawdy and
Yeah,
debauched and
yeah,
luxurious backgrounds, like
yeah.
the Shadow Maman and everything. That is just going to make people want to go and get the movie. So I think that would be an own goal for him. I can't imagine why he would do that. So what was the point of what he did? We still don't know why. And if look, he's so wealthy. He's made so much money. He flies around a private jet. I think he's not really interested in doing day-to-day legaling anyway. But I guess it would be a blow to his ego and an embarrassment for him if he were to be struck off or disbarred in California. And I mean, I guess that would mean he couldn't act for Hunter.
Yeah, well, I've asked for his disbarment. I mean, as you say, I've outlined a number of clauses which I can't remember offhand what the numbers are, but the California Bar Association is quite clear. You're not. I mean, you're not allowed to represent. If I'm involved in a case with your client, you're not allowed to come to me and ask me questions without disclosing you're the actual lawyer for that person. But there's another reason why. I mean, that's bad. But there's another reason. I'm then being questioned by a lawyer. I haven't got legal advice about that as well. So they're quite sore about that they want to make sure that I should have legal counsel before I'm being questioned by the counsel for the other side. Not that I'm on any side or anything. Yeah, what did he hope to achieve? I think he's obsessed with, and you've done some pieces on it. I think Kevin Morris, and I suppose they have to do this. They're obsessed with the idea that the laptop was obtained by super nefarious means, that Hunter left his laptop at his psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist leaked it, and therefore that would taint it, because this, it's quite funny because the psychiatrist breached his ethical obligations. Hunter Biden's lawyer, who I believe breached his ethical obligations to try and prove that the psychiatrist breached his ethical obligations, and he doesn't see the irony of that. Yeah, so I think he wants to try and neutralize. He wants. You remember there was a whole thing about, oh yeah, you couldn't write stories about Hillary Clinton's emails or John Podesta's emails because they were stolen. Remember CNN tried to float that one, that you can't
Right.
write stories about. So if he can prove or muddy the waters and say that the laptop was obtained by fraudulent or unethical means, then he could try and dissuade people from writing about it. It's I think, but at the end of the day, did he not know? Must have known that it would come out that he was Hunter Biden's lawyer. Maybe he didn't, but I think it's another example of how the rules don't apply to the Bidens or the people around the Bidens.
Yes, and I'm not sure that he was aware that it would come out. Maybe he suspected it would at some point. I'm not sure that he cares all that much. I think he quite likes, being part of a big story, and he's an energetic guy. He seems to genuinely really like Hunter Biden, and in some ways they even look alike. And and Hunter has always had this knack for getting people to adopt him and feel sorry for him, and so on. So I guess, look, when it comes to Kevin Morris's kind of far-fetched tale for how the laptop came to fruition, or came to the public eye, I've said to him, I'm quite willing to publish whatever story you have that is true. If you can back up this far-fetched tale with evidence, I have no problem with publishing it. But he has nothing. I mean, it's a much more complicated story to say that the laptop that we got, that we published from, is the laptop that Keith Abloh, his psychiatrist, had in Massachusetts. And then somehow it filtered through Roger Stone and all these other hands to Rudy Giuliani. It's much more complicated to say that than, what I believe is the truth, which is that Hunter stumbled drunk into John Paul MacIsaac's laptop repair store in Delaware, in the very shopping centre that is, the local one for his father and for him in Wilmington, Delaware, Greenville, Delaware. The same shopping centre where Hallie Biden, Hunter's sister-in-law turned lover, disposed of his gun. So this is the shopping centre where they did everything. It's the only one in town. It's quite upmarket, and there happens to be a computer repair store there. So, Hunter was there, drops off his laptop, doesn't come back for it, and months later, John Paul MacIsaac, now that it's his legal property, starts to have a look at it. He happens to be a Trump supporter. No crime in that, but I guess Hunter didn't expect that in Greenville, Delaware, there would be a Trump supporter in the computer shop. But there he was, a Trump supporter, and he saw material on the laptop that he thought would be exculpatory for the president during his impeachment. So he started contacting members of Congress, and finally Rudy Giuliani, who contacted us. So that's the way it went, and I think it's a pretty straightforward story, and John Paul MacIsaac has a book coming out shortly. He gives chapter and verse. He has the receipts. He has Hunter's signature. To me, it's a kind of a slam dunk case, but I am always willing as a journalist to have an open mind. But Kevin Morris just has nothing except just sort of a smear job on people he doesn't like.
One thing that really caught my attention, and I've had some experience myself, this guy went to members of Congress, right? And I've been to members of Congress. I've written to members of Congress about things and about stories that would help them, or stories I needed information. I just needed things. I needed transcripts of hearings. I needed this. Zero, zilch. These people have entourages that would make a Saudi prince blush, right? They have, deputy head of communications, deputy head of communications, digital deputy, the deputy to the digital deputy. And you write to them and say, I'm doing, when I was doing FBI Lovebirds, I was looking for transcripts of congressional that were available. I was looking actually for the transcripts from the public hearings, not the private ones. Oh, we couldn't do that. No answer, no answer, no answer. And I'm going, I did Ferguson, I did the play Ferguson that got enormous publicity. If you would like your congressman to be featured in a play, you could actually give me the transcript of the public hearing, right? Or direct me how to get the transcript. No response. Or, I don't really know how to do that. Well, go and find out. Deputy head of communications to the deputy. Anyway, that's a little rant. But, this guy went to numerous members of Congress and said, I have Hunter Biden's laptop and it shows evidence of corruption that goes all the way to the White House. He got crickets. And the people attack him for going to Rudy Giuliani. At least Rudy Giuliani returned his call,
Exactly. You're so right. And he did. He tried 2 or 3 Republican members of Congress and got no response. And, bombshell story. He went to the FBI first, remember, in December of 2019. This is not a guy who was looking for publicity or looking to do anything untoward. He just was sitting on what he thought was, very damaging information to the country. He saw a bunch of crimes and he was a patriotic citizen. He's a hero, and yet he's been vilified. And, as you say, good on Rudy Giuliani. Rudy Giuliani, at the time, his lawyer, Bob Costello, was keeping an eye on the sort of any whistleblower material that was coming into his inbox. And Bob Costello, a former Southern District of New York prosecutor, really smart, sharp guy, he saw instantly that there was it was a very detailed, very well-written, very clever email from John Paul MacIsaac, and also with attachments of segments of emails and so on. It was compelling. Nobody seeing that could ignore it.
Members of I just want to go back to a little mini rant about members of Congress. I wrote to them, and senators too, about certain matters, looking for stuff. Got no response. But you know what? They took my email address, and I get fundraising emails from them all the time.
Oh,
And it's like, I'm going. Do you know? I mean, so there's a certain person who is in more electoral trouble than they should be, right? And I'm going, if you treated me like that, you're treating your constituents like that. You're treating people who write to you with veterans problems or housing problem, whatever it is that they want and need, and you're ignoring them. But then you're sending them these cringeworthy emails every week looking for money. Do you think they're going to vote for you, and do you think they're not telling their family?
And I have to say, I've heard from whistleblowers, FBI whistleblowers recently, not just FBI, but FBI whistleblowers and others, that they've had the same dissatisfaction. I really hope that the Republicans get their act together before they start holding hearings in January. But they need to be really on top of this story. And it's not about Hunter's sex and Hunter's drugs and his debauched lifestyle. It's about Joe Biden. It's about money that came from China and Russia and Ukraine. And that's something that they can find out that you and I can't really, because they have subpoena power and they have access to Treasury documents that we don't.
We could talk all day about it. I mean, I wanted to talk more about actually Kevin Morris, but I got diverted talking about congressmen. I mean, you're right. He does look a lot like Hunter. They're similar ages. I mean, it struck me as very interesting. I mean, this is such an LA story. Hunter Biden was literally lived there, just right over there, from our house whilst we were producing a movie about him. Kevin Morris, his lawyer, they then moved to Malibu where Kevin is. So it's this LA story, and of course Breitbart are now distributing the movie. Andrew Breitbart, West LA as well,
Oh,
uh,
really?
and
Wow.
and Breitbart is headquartered in West LA. It's this West LA story, and Kevin Morris is there. He looks like Hunter Biden. Funny, if you want to get even more, it's a kind of a Irish American story. Um, Myself, Morris, and Hunter Biden. And by the way, a lot of people don't know this, but Breitbart was adopted, and he told me before he died about he found out the name of his father and his original father, his birth father, and it was he was Irish actually, had an Irish name. So Andrew Breitbart was Irish as well. So
My background's Irish as well, so it's all in the family.
it's all in the family. Well, I think actually maybe it's because being Irish, we don't focus too much on the addiction because everyone knows addiction very well. I'm sure in the Irish community, and that's not the story here. The story is corruption, and that's what you got to focus on. But I mean, Kevin Morris, we had conversations. If he was there under false pretenses, he told me he is a recovering addict as well. He told me that, and it's very interesting. And you talked about he seems to care about Hunter, and I would say to this. And Kevin Morris, apparently, he listens to this podcast. Apparently, or used to anyway. That's how he found out where we were in Belgrade. Uh, I would say, look, if you really care about Hunter Biden, stop spending $500,000 to go and spy on a movie being made about your client, and spend $500 and take your client out for a cup of coffee and a nice bun and talk to him and see what's wrong with him and try and help him. Don't create an enemies list. The biggest Hunter Biden's biggest enemy in terms of addiction is himself at the moment. I'm not his enemy, but that doesn't seem to. I think this is unfortunately Hunter, as you say, attracts people who go out and fight for him rather than stay and fight with him. And he doesn't need that at the moment. I've heard some LA gossip, and it's only at the level of gossip. It's someone who knows someone. And I think Hunter, certainly when he moved from Venice up to Malibu, was partying pretty hard. I just heard that over the weekend from a real estate connection who had to clean the house up afterwards. And he was partying pretty hard up in Malibu. So, I think rather than people close to Kevin Morris threatening me or saying I'm going to regret this, look closer to home, and maybe you can do some good with your influence and your money. That's just my 10 cents worth. So you think we'll wrap it up here, Randa, because we could talk all day, but you think there'll be nothing legal before the elections?
No, I don't think so, because we're now past that sort of 60-day mark where I guess the DOJ likes to not have anything political happen, and any excuse will do. I think that the main motivation now with this U.S. attorney's investigation into Hunter Biden is to just kick the can down the road as far as possible to try and get it to the end of Joe Biden's presidency so that he can then pardon everybody, not just Hunter, but his various business partners,
Mm-hmm.
people like Devon Archer, who are awaiting sentencing, or not awaiting sentencing, awaiting the results of an appeal. He's already been sentenced. But others, for instance, Joe's brother, Jim Biden, is also being investigated. People don't talk much about him. So I think, look, a blanket pardon for everybody would probably come and go with not much notice in the New York Times, the Washington Post. And anybody who did pay attention would say, oh, well, of course, Joe Biden's such a good family man. We expected that he would do this. And the poor old man, he's 82 now, and leave him alone. He sacrificed so much. And poor Hunter is a drug addict. So
Yeah. As you say, that article is about laying the groundwork for this sub story. Yeah, I mean, do you think? I mean, I don't know if you have any particular inside knowledge of this, but do you think we're going to see Biden on the ticket in 2024?
Oh no. No, that would be ridiculous, don't you think? There's no way. I wonder if the Democrats are sort of foxing. I mean, in one sense, obviously Joe Biden doesn't want to be a lame duck before his time. But in another sense, I wonder if they're foxing because really their plan in 2024 is to put forward a youth ticket, whoever that be, Gavin Newsom or Kamala Harris or Pete Buttigieg, whoever it is, but a youth ticket. I think America is wholly sick of this gerontocracy, whether it's Joe Biden or Nancy Pelosi or whoever it is, Anthony Fauci. And there's a lot of young people who, I guess are 16 now, who were at school during the lockdown, who suffered greatly because the baby boomers decided to lock them all up for a disease that didn't hurt them, only hurt the boomers. So I think there's a lot of antagonism and anger about the older generations. And I think there'll be a backlash in 2024. And so it would be sort of clever of the Democrats to sort of pretend that Joe Biden's going to be on the ticket so that if Trump or some other older person fronts up for the Republicans, they can just wipe them out of the water with a youthquake.
When does he have to declare one way or the other?
Usually people announce sort of in the spring of the previous year. So, like next year, April, May, something like that. Already you're seeing a bit of movement from the likes of Gavin Newsom. And Joe Biden the other day was at some ridiculous function with Kamala Harris, and he another gaffe machine moment, but he did say something vaguely intelligible about Kamala Harris being, going to be the first black woman president or something. So, but now we're hearing Hillary Clinton's wanting to throw her hat into the ring again. But this is a bit more plausible because she's been sort of making murmurings about how we should have a secure border and a real country can't have unlimited illegal migration. So, I mean, that's true. And if she's the only moderate in the race, she would be the Democrats' best.
People talk about how people disliked Hillary. I never got the dislike as such. It was the lack of. I think it was funny enough. This is the thing that people don't want to admit. The 2016 election was all about politics. Actually, it was all about ideology. There was a clear division between the two candidates. There was build the wall. He didn't build the wall, which is probably why he didn't get re-elected. But it was like build a wall. He was saying the unsayable. He was saying we need no more trade deals. And suddenly there was this. I mean, up until then, every Republican candidate was, free trade with China, which was, was sell the shop to China. It was we need to bring in the dreamers. They all agreed, right?
And, no more wars. No more
yeah.
wars. She was the classic neocon.
Yes, yeah. So there was an actual, I never felt that the reason Hillary was not elected because she was unlikable. It was because her politics were unlikable. Bill picked up on that. If you read some of the books, there's a book. The best book on the 2016 campaign is a book called Shattered, where the journalists had access to the campaign on a day-by-day basis. And there's some great zingers in there. So Bill was going around these small towns and realizing that they were losing to Trump or Bernie Sanders. And he would phone in the headquarters in Brooklyn, and they were all the data nerds, and they were going to run the campaign because that's how Obama won, by the data. And Bill was going, we're losing it in the small towns and the rural. And they said, well, Mr. Clinton, your anecdotes don't match our data.
Isn't that perfect?
Isn't that perfect? And it's like, don't match the data, because there's the data, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, and Bill, was proven right, but I'm sure he did not want to be proven right. So, I think Hillary running again, it is kind of ridiculous, but it's not as ridiculous as it sounds. It's not. There's no reason why Hillary. I don't get the hatred. I don't think people hate Hillary. This was a thing spun, by the way, by the mainstream media. It was misogyny and all that. So if she does run on a closed borders, anti-trade, no more war ticket, and manages to get the Democratic primary. But there are a lot of ifs there, and then she might be a candidate.
But again, she's old, so I really do think that that age is going to become a big thing in 2024, and that's why I think that's a big. I think there are two negatives for Trump. One is his age, and the other is that he would only be a one-term president. And I think the problems in America are so enormous that I think you can't really risk. I think voters will just say we're not going to risk it on a one-term president. But he is incredibly, he's the moment man. He has momentum. He has charisma. He has a huge loyalty from his base, and also he's the only one who kind of frames the narrative in common sense terms, and he's brave.
Yes, he is. He is. All of those, he is 100%. There's no doubt about it. I get the impression. I don't know DeSantis, but I get the impression DeSantis is looking at Trump and trying to mimic him, right? I wonder how deep that bravery of the DeSantis is showing. I wonder, is it I gotta be like Trump, or is it in his heart? And I don't know the answer to that, but I suppose it's good to see it, that he's the most influential political figure of the last 40 or 50 years. He has moved politics. He has moved candidates. He has moved political parties
around the world. He's been influential in politics around the world, because he's shown the right that you don't have to be cowed, you don't have to appease, just brazen through, and the opposition just falls aside. And he was impervious to their attacks. It really is their worst attack is to make you unpopular and unwanted in the elegant salons.
Yeah.
And if you don't care about that,
yes,
then you're impervious like he was.
Yeah.
Although he does seem to care about what Maggie Haberman thinks at the New York Times.
It's funny, isn't it? It's funny. The guy spent so much time giving these people interviews, and it's just, I don't know why he wasn't spending his time speaking to local radio stations in swing states.
He's a very generous man, though, in person. He'll give the food off his plate. And so I guess it's just not in his nature to deny people if they just ask and ask.
You're very correct. We met him. We were supposed to have a 15-minute meeting with him. I say we were there for 45 minutes. We're probably there for more like an hour. And this is the 29th of February, 2020, as a pandemic was barreling down the world. And we were spending a very enjoyable, as you say, he's very generous with his time, his anecdotes, his stories. He's he will keep talking, and you're right. And I think he had very bad people around him who also wanted to be liked. I think the people around him wanted to be liked by the New York Times, so they directed him to the New York Times. They don't want to be liked by some guy who's the number one conservative DJ in Pittsburgh, right, or in Philadelphia. That guy, he whereas that's where Trump should have been. Trump should have been on there, had a regular Monday spot, every Monday of his presidency with these guys, or a regular Friday spot, just rather than spending 25 hours with Maggie Haberman. Anyway, thank you very much, Miranda, and we will talk again, and hope to see you soon.
Thanks, Philip. Bye-bye.
Bye. Well, as we covered a lot of ground there. I know I went on a little rant in the middle of it, talking about congressmen and senators not answering emails, and with their entourages, and again, just to repeat myself, the guy with the laptop phone wrote to several congressmen saying, "I've got Hunter Biden's laptop. There's evidence of criminality." Got no response. And as Amanda said, these FBI whistleblowers contacted several congressional people, no response. Like, what are these entourages? These have entourages that would shame an Arab sheikh.
Yes.
And as we know, we had the experience, and I've mentioned there to Miranda, of contacting a representative for about a certain matter, and they never responded. But I'm on their email for fundraising.
For fundraising, yeah. They don't forget to write to you looking for money.
That's right. So, let's move on to Blonde, the Marilyn Monroe. We'll put up some headlines there, like, as Blonde goes number 1 on Netflix, viewers lash out. So sexist, cruel. One of the most detestable movies ever made.
This is pretty extraordinary. This is almost at the level, actually, that's pretty much at the level of the criticism we had for the My Son Hunter movie.
Yes.
The worst movie ever made, basically.
Yes.
But I mean, imagine saying that, the most detestable movie ever made. You know, and that's from who film? That's from
Variety.
That's from Variety,
Put
by
that
the way.
in their headline,
so
right?
that's kind of,
And
that's
then-
extremely
and
hysterical,
then
right?
NPR, Blonde, the new Marilyn Monroe biopic, is an exercise in exploitation, not empathy. And I'm thinking, well, it's a biopic. Of course, there's when you tell the life story of anyone, right? There is a certain amount of exploitation there, I suppose. But it's not. That comes with the territory. And then Forbes, Blonde and Dahmer, both face exploitation claims. BuzzFeed. People are outraged by the Marilyn Monroe and JFK scene in Blonde. Here's why.
And it goes on and on and on.
And on and on and on.
And then we're like,
on
and then
Saturday,
we discover, then on Saturday, so we then, open the pages of our digital New York Times subscription, which of course we read, so you don't have to, and find this, and find the reason why the absolute, this is...
I have to say, I almost spit out my coffee when I saw it. I was going,
and by the way,
and
Phil,
it was the shock of seeing it, what's in the movie, because it's so amazing that it's in it, right? But also it was like, suddenly the vitriol makes sense.
So bear with us, because I think it's almost worth reading the whole of this article. So you can stop me when you want, Philip, but this is unbelievable.
Put the headline up.
You can see the headline up there now. The empty spectacle of Marilyn Monroe's fantasy fetus. Blonde pretends to imagine how Monroe would have felt about her pregnancies. Instead, it jarringly shoves a CGI fetus into her mid-century mind.
Because
you're not allowed to do that. Somehow.
Because mid-century people had no concept of fetus.
Somehow.
This is just exploitation. People
No,
never
but
thought of
it's
fetuses.
even worse than that, because actually mid-century people did actually have a concept, and they had a concept because of the very photographer that I've recently spoken about on this podcast.
Yeah.
But let me get back to so Amanda Hess writing
God
for
bless
the
her.
New York Times.
Hi, Amanda.
How
are you?
Here's how she starts, all very calm. In Blonde, the director Andrew Dominik's fever dream fictionalization of Marilyn Monroe's life. Yes, Philip, over to you.
Fever dream was a word frequently used to describe My Son Hunter.
Oh, there you go. Look at that. Look at us. Look
Actually,
at the company
we should Google. I might Google fever dream and My Son Hunter. Just give me a moment here.
Oh no, okay. Are we going to wait on you now?
Yeah, I'll just listen.
Or are we meant to talk among ourselves while Phelim is doing this? This is, by the way, for those of you who have a subscription to the New York Times, honestly, it's worth reading this thing in full. But for those of you who don't, I'm going to do a fair bit of the reading. All right, Phelim.
Hollywood and Toto, fever dream. Epoch Times, fever dream. Yeah. Several references to fever dream.
So there we are. We're in great company then. Okay, Phelim, getting back to this. In Blonde, the director Andrew Dominik's fever dream fictionalization of Marilyn Monroe's life, Monroe, Ana de Armas, gets pregnant in a celestial fantasy sequence. As she swigs champagne on the beach with her two lovers, the stars above them realign into an expanse of wiggly sperm. Cue gestational montage. A clump of cells appears, a pulsating... Clump of cells. I know, I love it, yeah. A clump of cells appears. A pulsating embryo sprouts, resembling a gelatinous crimson shrimp. Soon, a beatific, photorealistic fetus is floating in a sparkling peach brine. Its fully articulated form dappled in inexplicable rays of light. You know, Phelim, there's a funny thing now. You see, they're making a movie and all that, and you see... You know the way in movies, like, you might be interested in making the light nice. Does that seem like a normal thing to do now?
I'm using them things like special effects on.
Oh, yeah. Monroe is lured into aborting that pregnancy. But when she conceives a second time, this is the beginning of the New York Times piece. When she conceives a second time, her sentient fetus reappears. Now it's telepathic. You won't hurt me this time, will you? The fetus asks Monroe. You're not the same baby, she whispers towards her own belly. The fetus replies, that was me. It's always me. Which, by the way, almost brings me to tears reading that, by the way. Absolutely extraordinary. And here we find the nub of the problem with this movie.
Yes.
Marilyn Monroe's chatty, regenerating fetus. She calls it baby.
Oh my
and
God.
by the way,
The horror. The humanity.
The humanity, they call it baby, has emerged as a scene-stealing sensation.
Oh, they hit that.
Critics have called it goofy, despicable, and cruel.
Cruel to who, by the way?
Yeah,
Cruel to who?
how does that work out?
She's dead now.
How does that work out? Really, where's the despicable, by the way? I mean, despicable, calm down, by the way, everyone. Just calm down. Goofy. Some have even pegged it as inadvertently propagandistic. Oh, God, wouldn't that be Phelim? Oh, my God, I'm going to faint here.
500.
Phelim. No, but Phelim, the idea of using cinema in a propagandistic way. Oh, the horror. This mode of, will you hear this, by the way? Will you hear how crazy this language is, Phelim? This mode of fetal puppetry is a familiar anti-abortion gimmick, but Monroe's dialogue with her pregnancy, which originated, by the way, here's a very interesting part of the story, right, Phelim?
Yeah, I know.
Dialogue, which originated in the 2000 Joyce Carol Oates novel. So Blonde, the movie, is based on a novel by Joyce Carol Oates.
Yeah.
This sequence is from the Joyce Carol Oates.
Yeah.
So
it's a real problem.
So Phelim, it's a real problem. The movie is being faithful to the book that was written,
yes.
The Horror, right?
The Horror.
On which the film is based, is also a product of the star's troubled self-conception. Imagine conception. In that context, the fetus is corny. The fetus, by the way, imagine a fetus being corny. Yes. It's a good one, isn't it now? Can you imagine anything more innocent than a fetus? But there you go, corny fetus, right? The fetus is corny, sanctimonious, by the way. There's the old fetus being sanctimonious. Message, sanctimonious, makes a kind of sense. Oh, God, help us. Oh, really, New York Times? What is jarring is now here's what's jarring. Here's what's upsetting to them. And by the way, this is a complete lie. The whole thing is upsetting to them. But what they're saying is, what is jarring is the contemporary look of the fetus. Right?
What?
I'm not finished. A schlocky, seemingly computer-generated figure that recalls pop culture fantasy images invented long after Monroe's death. Oh, the horror. Imagine doing that. It's a rendering so lazy, it suggests a stubborn incuriosity about how Monroe would have actually experienced her pregnancies, even as the film presents them as a character-defining event. The fetus, an unseen body inside of a body, suspended between non-existence and existence, is defined by parental expectation, and on and on and on, and on and on and on.
So, I mean, there's a million things there. Propagandistic, like 500 showrunners and directors have written to the Hollywood studios saying, we shouldn't have shows in Georgia because of abortion laws. I mean, they work actively with a Planned Parenthood representative to get pro-abortion stories into Hollywood and TV shows, and we've seen them in all our shows. That's just a start, but it doesn't make any sense.
Okay, let me go on and tell you
how. What are you supposed to think? It's kind of like they attacked our movie for a telepathic dog, right? And it's like,
it's called a movie.
It's called a movie. We had a telepathic dog.
Of course, dogs don't talk. But by the way, if you're high on a massive mixture of meth and cocaine and you're drinking a bottle of whiskey, I think you could hear a dog talking.
Yes.
I could imagine having a conversation with a dog or other inanimate objects, as people do, by the way.
Yes.
We live in Venice. I see a lot of people talking to inanimate objects all the time.
Yes.
So it's actually very accurate. Listen to this, though, Phelim. I mean, really, this is an amazing article, but I love this. Blonde is an ahistoric...
the movie.
Is an ahistoric imposition. An image, so this is the picture basically of the baby. An image that feels plucked from the narrow imagination of a modern male director. Men, God help you now, honestly, men. You just have this narrow, imagine saying that, by the way, about Van Gogh. Did Van Gogh now, him being a man and all that, did he have a narrow imagination now? Would that be the kind of way it would be? That me being a man and all that you would have that narrowness to your imagination? That somehow... But anyway, let me continue. At the time of Monroe's first pregnancy, in the film's version of her... And by the way, this is really interesting, by the way, because they're kind of contradicting themselves here. At the time of Monroe's first pregnancy, in the film's version of her life, fetal imagery was rudimentary fascination. Photographs published in Life magazine, the ones that we featured before in the podcast, in the 1950s, included black and white images of a squid-like translucent embryo and skeletal fetal remains. The vision of the fetus in blonde, spectacularly well lit. The horror. Fused with cosmic imagery.
So that was another thing. Our movie was badly lit, or it was well lit, or it was too, our movie, My Son Hunter, it used exact words from Joe Biden and put them in his mouth, which was wrong. You're supposed to script him with different things that sound similar, but then if we'd done that, that would be making stuff up. You won't win. You cannot win.
But but anyway, it goes on and it says basically that they were basing their images very much on those images from the Life magazine.
Yes.
That was in 1965, so about 15 years afterwards. But but the idea that this is the criticism, that actually the criticism is that it's not historically...
An historical anachronism.
It's a historical anachronism. But by the way, wouldn't Marilyn Monroe or somebody in the 50s or earlier, by the way, if they thought of a baby in their body, think of what a baby looks like? And so the image is actually looks like a baby.
Yes.
But it just goes on. And it's just, to me, it's kind of...
No, their crime was making the baby a person.
Yes. Oh, no, the crime is humanizing the baby. This is a huge mistake.
Yes.
I mean, and honestly, you could go on and on and on about it. It's very, in an interview, by the way, listen to this. In an interview with Decider, Dominic, again, this is the director, explained that he visualized the fetus in an attempt to access Norma's feelings. Right?
Yes.
About her pregnancies.
Mm-hmm.
Baby was real, he said. I wanted baby to be real. And yet Dominic's brief glimpse into Monroe's mind reveals nothing. All that can be found in there is a YouTube womb cam. All that can be found in there is a YouTube womb cam.
What the hell does that mean?
Have you been out at all now, Miss Amanda Hess? Have you not met any friends at all that are fantasizing and drooling over every last scan they have of the baby that they're about to have, and they're constantly looking at it? And by the way, the other thing that strikes me about this,
she probably lives in New York where there are more dogs than babies.
The other thing that strikes me about this is it's a very familiar sort of progressive hypocrisy. And I can think of people that I know who would be very pro-abortion, but they're also the same people, when they get pregnant, would read Great Expectations, as somebody that I particularly know, read Great Expectations to their unborn child. And by the way, I'm all in favour of it.
Well,
I'm all in favour.
Dickens overrated.
Well, Phelim thinks Dickens is overrated, but you know what I mean? So they were reading Great Expectations
that was said,
playing...
That was said like nobody else thinks Dickens is overrated.
Well, no one in this room thinks that Dickens is overrated film, however. And by the way, even back in Dickens' time, he was very much enjoyed by the people who read him in a serial form, as you know.
Yes.
He would appear every week in the newspapers, and he sold newspapers, Phelim.
Yes.
And you should have at least respect for that. Anyway, we just thought this was one of those very funny things where you read a story, and Phelim is very good at this. You read a headline and you think, something doesn't make sense here. Why is everyone going nuts about this movie Blonde? Now, interesting to say, by the way, to add, we have not seen the movie Blonde yet ourselves, so we haven't got an opinion on the movie. We just got an opinion on what the New York Times are upset about, which is this humanizing of the children of the babies that she aborted. But I think what is interesting that I did notice over the weekend, because we were planning to watch it, was Janice Dean, who I really do like, who's that weather woman up in New York, who was very involved. I think had a lot to say during COVID. I was very involved in the whole vaccination thing.
Well, no, her parents died, unfortunately.
God, of course, that's right.
In nursing homes.
Her parents, yes.
She blamed Andrew Cuomo.
Correct.
Rightly so.
Correct.
Because he didn't want to send people to Trump's medical ship and thank Trump for all the help. He shipped them back to the nursing homes.
Where they were guaranteed to die.
Well, and where people spread diseases, and her parents picked it up and died.
And her in-laws died, and she has been really valiant, by the way, in her fight about that. So I really kind of like her. But I saw her on Twitter basically saying she'd watched an hour of the movie Blonde and said it was just too depressing. Mm-hmm. She said that Marilyn Monroe is crying in every scene. Another interesting observation that I heard was that Marilyn Monroe, and again, I haven't seen the movie yet, so we will have to watch it.
We will watch it for next week.
We will watch it and we'll tell you. But what I have heard is that Marilyn Monroe, the character of Marilyn Monroe in the movie, is carefree and fun and happy until these abortions, which by the way, the studios forced her into doing, apparently. And that after that, She basically cries in every last scene in the movie. And I can see why, again, that would upset the New York Times a lot.
It's a direct answer to Michelle Williams'
Well, that's
Oscar
right.
speech.
Can
you know?
everyone remember that?
Or Golden Globes. Even worse, her Golden Globes
yeah, not
speech.
even an Oscar.
Imagine
not even an Oscar.
winning you know.
She won a Golden Globe and basically said it was all that the abortion was worth it because that was what she got. She got a Golden Globe, you know. And we know a lot about the Golden Globes now. That we we'd be happy.
I'd rather have a snow globe from the local Walmart, you know.
Correct. But anyway, we will talk about Blonde, the new movie. We'll actually watch it, so you don't have to. But as I said, Janice Dean said it was literally too depressing.
I wonder, you know. Let's see.
I don't like depressing movies.
Judgment.
Life is depressing enough.
Talking of depressing.
Yes, Mr. Billy Eichner is very depressed.
Bros is Bros. It's BROS. Bros. The movie is an LGBTQ rom-com, a gay as in gay man rom-com,
R-rated with lots of sexually explicit scenes.
Yes, I believe a foursome.
We'd love
four
that.
men in the bed together.
So bizarrely.
Yeah, it was 30 million was spent marketing it. I think it cost 15 million to make. So that's the studio's official figures. So you could probably add 10 million on each of those figures. So it probably cost 60 million in total, 70 million. It was supposed to make 10 million at the weekend. It made 4.8, and as we know, those figures can be messed with. It may not even have made 4.8.
That's an estimate, and it can be massaged. That number can be massaged.
So it could be a lot less it made. And
by the way, and the other thing that we know from our brief foray into theatrical releases is whatever that number is going to fall away now. Unless, of course, you're Top Gun Maverick, in which case you keep on making money constantly. Yeah. Even this last weekend, Top Gun Maverick, which has been out forever.
Gun Maverick, you can now watch it on your TV.
And it still made $1 million
it made
in the theatre.
1,116,000.
Yeah, in like 12 cinemas. I'm kind of joking about the 12 cinemas.
But anyway,
but basically, tell us more about Bros film.
Yeah, so Bros, yeah. So, you know.
Shockingly, people didn't go to see it.
Yeah, it's
shocking.
Rom-com. I mean, I have a number of things to say.
Say the number of things now, Phelim.
Well, rom-coms, right?
Phelim loves rom-coms,
yes.
It should be said.
But I'll tell you who doesn't like rom-coms. Progressives. They hate rom-coms.
Why do they hate them? I know why they hate them. Can I answer that question? Well, rom-coms really are very, very conservative. Rom-coms basically at their core say, you were messing around and you were looking at this one and that one. But in the end, actually, what's going to make you really, really happy is a stable relationship and getting married.
A secure family unit.
The secure family unit and the nuclear family and all of that. And basically, the rom-com is basically the end of the rom-com. All of the ends of the rom-coms, any rom-com that's successful, has the boy gets the girl gets the boy, and they run off into the sunset.
And they become better people in a family unit.
Yes.
It used to be funny. It used to be he
gave up his drinking ways.
Well, actually, very often, or hard-charging, ambitious, dedicated to his work ways, and she was more flighty and free and had a crazy family, and he met her and met the family and realized, I need to relax more, and she goes, I need to embrace sort of more ambition, and they sort
Sounds
of
like our relationship film.
They sort of compromise
boom. Do you like
in
that?
the middle.
21 years later. So basically, progressives don't like the rom-com at all. That genre. My husband is an aficionado of the rom-com.
Yeah. So the progressives decided that I mean, Amy Schumer's rom-com. It's very funny. Actually,
is it very funny, Phelim?
No, it's totally not funny. Trainwreck. Interestingly, that it's at the very tail end of the decline of the rom-com. The rom-coms were hugely successful in the 80s, of course.
Correct.
Where conservatism was cool, and even then into the 90s, and then progressives just decided to deconstruct the rom-com, and it just fell off a cliff. And I think the worst example of it was Amy Schumer's Trainwreck, where she was this promiscuous, uber promiscuous young woman, and she fell in love with this straight-laced doctor who couldn't enjoy himself. Now, in a classic rom-com, he goes out and starts dancing and partying and realizes, I've been too straight-laced.
And she starts cooking.
And she starts cooking. All in Trainwreck, all it was she started cooking. He never changed from the moment. Really weird. Even when they're trying to deconstruct the rom-com.
Getting back to Bros.
Bros.
So shockingly,
Bros failed.
with its explicit homosexual sex scenes didn't do well at the box office. Because shockingly,
because everyone wants to go out on a Saturday night and watch two men kissing. It's just
and
really...
more than kissing. Actually,
Oh,
apparently,
yes.
apparently that's not a big turn on for a lot of people. But Bill Eichner, who is what is he filming?
He's
Is
the
he
writer, director, and I believe the producer.
I think he might, and he's in the movie, right?
And he's in the movie.
And
I
he's
don't
in the
know.
movie.
You know,
so
I don't
basically,
care.
Billy Eichner has, of course, responded to this disaster in a very moderate way, and he's basically said on Twitter,
Yeah, that's the world we live in. But unfortunately, he went to see it in L.A. and people cried in the
People
cinema,
just
laughed.
loved it in
It was
LA.
full, and that's
How we
that's the
laughed.
world. But only 4.8. But nobody went to see it. Nobody else went
the
to
rest
see
of
it.
the country, nobody went to see it.
Yeah, that's
And
the
here's
world.
what he-
That's the world we live in. Unfortunately, even with glowing reviews, great Rotten Tomato scores, and A cinema score, etc., straight people in certain parts of the countries just didn't show up for Bros, and that's disappointing. But that's what it is. And then he says, everyone who isn't a homophobic weirdo should
So-
go see Bros tonight. You will have a blast. You know,
So all of you homophobic weirdos, right?
who
which
didn't see
apparently-
Bros.
who didn't see Bros, something. What film?
Well, funny. Despite spending 30 million on it, I saw a lot of ads for it, but I actually thought it was a HBO series. See, when it was a gay romantic comedy, I was thinking, okay,
That's very HBO.
it's very HBO. I was thinking, and funny enough, if it was on HBO, I might even have given it a chance, right? I might have, right?
Do you know something? We need to be careful, Phil, because we could end up in some kind of re-education camp because of the fact that looking at men having sex is something we don't enjoy. It's obviously some kind of do you know what I mean? It's something that needs to be fixed. Because that's basically what he's suggesting. That if you don't want to see men having sex together, then really you're a homophobic.
I'm not sure
you're
I
a
want to see
homophobic
men and
weirdo.
women having sex together either.
Yeah, I'm not
in
sure
my
I want-
romantic comedy.
No, there you go. You see, look at the kind of us.
No, it's dear Mr. Billy Eichner.
Billy.
It's called a romantic comedy that involves romance and comedy.
Yes.
It does not involve sex.
That's right.
It does not involve being lectured at.
Right.
Or being
Explicit
told
sex,
what to-
actually, yeah, exactly.
It's
Doesn't sound
romance.
Like, yes, it's a romance.
Romantic comedy. I know it's so 80s. I know it's so old fashioned. I know you want to change the world, Billy, but make a porno then, right? If that's what if you want explicit sex in your movie, make a porno. Make a hardcore movie, right? That will be watched by
People who like to do that kind
people
of
who
thing.
like to watch that kind of thing. But if you're going in to delve into the romantic comedy world, go back and watch some of those great romantic comedies. Go
What's your
watch
favourite
You've
film,
Got Mail.
That's great. 4 Weddings and a Funeral. Did you? You don't love that one?
No.
I like that one.
Yeah. Notting Hill.
Notting Hill was very good.
Yeah, all those. Somebody would say, why is there no great romantic comedies anymore? And somebody else said, well, because Hugh Grant stopped making them. And Hugh Grant was much mocked and much laughed at. But you try and find an actor now who will act as stupid and as posh and as dumb as the Hugh Grant figures in all those movies. They won't do it because they all want to be edgy. They all want to be cool. They all want to push the envelope. And one thing a romantic comedy does not make you look cool, does not make you look edgy, it does not make you do not look like you're pushing the envelope, but you end up being hugely popular and you end up being watched 100 times.
Do you know one of the biggest problems and one of the reasons why they're not able to make rom-coms now is because at the heart of the rom-com, it's very sincere.
Yes.
It's actually very sincere. And in the end, it's like, this isn't a joke. Actually, this isn't a joke. People do want to fall in love. People do want to meet people and start a life together and try and make something of their lives and make a family. And, and that's not a place for cynicism. That's a place for something honest and hopeful and all of that kind of stuff, which is anathema to progressives.
Who want to be cool. Who want to be cool.
And cool, yeah. And as Greg Gutfield very famously wrote an incredibly wonderful book about, basically cool is the enemy of everything. It's the last thing you want to be is cool.
Yeah.
Or be called cool. Once that happens, it's like, you've lost.
It's over.
There's no value. Cool has no value. And is valueless and has there are no values, exactly. Anyway, that sounds a bit repetitive. Okay, we've come to the end of the show. We are so glad that you guys are. By the way, everyone is enjoying the film so much. It's been great. We're getting messages from all over the place, and I do know some people were wondering about a DVD. So the DVD is available now.
We hope.
It should be available by the time you're watching this show. So get the DVD, and then by the way, great thing to buy for someone, by the way, as a present, and perhaps buy for that very awkward person in your family. Thanksgiving coming up, all of those kind of things. It's October, by the way. Can I just mention that? What a shock! Amazing, but we're very, very happy to welcome in the autumn. And
such as it is here in Southern California.
Such as it is here in California. It's still very, very warm. Thank you so much for everything, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.